from one disciple of Jesus to another.
Welcome back to Mathitis. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to last week's podcast. If you did, I'm grateful. I appreciate you taking the time to do it. If you haven't, I'd encourage you, for context, I'll try to provide a summary here, but go back and listen to it. It's short. It's only about 13 minutes. But I shared a little bit of this is my first year where I'm actually celebrating Advent. And I really didn't know anything about it. Even growing up in a church, the denomination I grew up in, as I stated before, Advent wasn't really a thing that was discussed or celebrated. And the only thing I really knew about Advent was these Advent calendars would show up at Christmas time. I would see these Advent toy sets for kids where I understood it was 24 days long, generally speaking. Every day they would open up and get a toy, and it was supposed to be a way to emphasize Christmas. That's all I knew. So last week I talked a little bit about the history behind Advent and what it means, its purpose. And I'm learning every Sunday, there's 4 Sundays in Advent as we're observing it, and every Sunday there's a different focus, and there's candles. So there's a total of 5 candles. There's 3 purple, 1 pink, and 1 white. And since I'm a week behind, this is actually the second week in Advent, I've been thinking about last Sunday, the candle of hope that symbolizes hope. And then this Sunday, there was a scripture passage read, and they lit the candle that symbolizes peace. So in an attempt to sort of catch up in my journey of what I'm learning, at least a bird's eye view on Advent, I'd like to share some of that with you. And in Hebrews 10, verse 23 is where I'll start. We're just in sharing some thoughts on the first purple candle, or the hope candle. The author of Hebrews says, "Let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering, since he who promised is faithful." One of the things I've been thinking about, hope, isn't that just another word for faith? In my mind, I was sort of putting the two together, and it was hard to make a distinction because I put faith, I believe Jesus is my hope, but yet they're definitely 2 different words on some level. They have 2 different definitions. Even the Apostle Paul says in Corinthians that he lists faith, hope, and love. Right? These 3 remain: faith, hope, and love. So for Paul to use faith and hope side by side with a conjunction of "and," they're different. And as we think about Advent with the hope candle, how is that different? And especially in the first week of Advent, and what I'm learning about, originally the idea was to think more about the second coming of Christ while we look back on the first coming. Hope it stems from faith. Faith is we believe that God will do what he said, that we believe in God. Whatever God says he will do, whether that be good or whether that be bad, right? There are times in the Old Testament where God says he's going to judge a people. Sometimes that's his people, the children of Israel, and other times they're Gentile nations. Faith understands that whatever God says is going to come to pass. Hope is an expectant longing or looking forward to whatever it is that God has said would come to pass. So a little deeper in the context of the candle, our hope in looking towards the return of Christ is a hope when all things will be put to rights, as N.T. Wright, his phraseology that he uses, where it's not just there'll be no more pain, which that's true. There'll be no more sin, that's true. But a shalom, a peace, which leads into the second candle, where all things are fitting together as they were originally meant to be. Right? The new heaven and the new earth is here. Our new bodies are here. We see Jesus face to face. There's nothing holding us back from living the full life and experiencing the full joy and glory of God that we were originally created to experience prior to the fall. That hope, that expectant longing. And yes, we have the hope because we believe that God is true, because we know let God be true and every man a liar. But it's the longing to see that promise fulfilled. That's our hope. And that's a brief synopsis of as that first candle's lit. And I think back on that one and the other three still being unlit, or four counting the white candle being unlit. The hope of the promise, as again, as the author of Hebrews says, let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering. And then this morning, the second Sunday of Advent, it was the peace candle. And the passage for the peace candle is in Isaiah 9, verse 8. I believe if I look it up, Isaiah 9, verse 6. Sorry. For a child will be born for us, a son will be given to us, and the government will be on his shoulders. He will be named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. So, a minute ago I referenced shalom, peace, this wholeness, everything fitting together. A lot of times at Christmas time, there is a Christmas song, at least I used to hear it on the radio years ago. I don't know if it's actually a Christmas song, but it talks about there being no more war in the world and no more hunger. And we have Christmas songs that sing the proclamation of the angels to the shepherds, peace on earth, goodwill to men. And Christmas time, of all times of the year, is one time when, whether it's television shows, commercials, we're inundated with the idea, or the world's idea of peace. And we see images of people doing kind things for people who are less fortunate. We see people sharing things and smiles on people's faces. We see people sitting around a table with a lush spread of food and candles, and everybody's laughing and smiling, and it's massive family. And when in reality, we know, if we're honest with ourselves, there's always that one Christmas event we dread going to. We always have to spend time with some distant extended family, and everybody that's there moments before they walked in, or perhaps even the hour drive to get there, was complaining about having to put up with this uncle, that cousin, this aunt, whoever it may be. Those commercials are the ideal, but they're not the reality. But this candle, this week, is about peace. That Christ, the Messiah, He came, He's the Prince of Peace, and that He promises on His return there will be peace over the whole earth. And that we have a promise now that as He resides within us, we have a peace that passes all understanding. That we can go through some of the most insane, horrific, terrible, painful moments, but through the power of His Spirit, we have peace. And other people can look and they don't understand it, and we may not even be able to explain it in a way that they deem acceptable. It is a peace that passes understanding, but it is a real abiding peace. And Jesus promises that He gives us that peace. All those who are in Him, He gives that peace to. But at Christmas time, if we think about peace, and for me, how can I show that peace? How can I feel that peace? Christmas is probably one of the most heightened times in the past where I'm on edge. Not only is it financial straits from trying to perhaps buy gifts for people when maybe my finances weren't able to do what I felt others expected me to do or what I needed to do. there is an insane amount of people that is out on the roads. And when I drive to get where I'm going. And so in the past, I know holiday traffic is not my friend, and I would try to avoid as much as possible. This year is different. This year, I have the Holy Spirit who's reminding me, even at on a Saturday at lunchtime when I'm running through intersection and mall traffic. I'm not even trying to go to the mall. I just know in this area there's a lot of traffic, and I'm reminded, trust God, you'll get where you're going when you're supposed to get there. He's got it. And when I tend to see the lights change, because I'm a light watcher, so I know when the crossing traffic lights turn red, I've got it timed to when my light turns green. I get that anxiety where I want to tap that horn a little bit to make sure they're paying attention, or I want to get a little frustrated with people who aren't driving as fast, or not enough people get through the intersection before the light changes, and all of this anxiety of people being around and people being out and bustling and purchasing and not paying attention or texting people to make plans. Everybody has things going on, not just me, but it's an opportunity. Now it's an opportunity to let the peace of God rule and reign in my heart. In previous years, it wasn't an opportunity for that. It was a different opportunity for sin to have its way in my members, for profanity to leave my mouth, gestures to be thrown to the other person. There was no holiday spirit. If someone was a personification of Scrooge, it probably would have been me in relation to other people. Now, when I'm around the tree with my family, all the gifts are opening up, all seemed right with the world. I'm talking about the peace of God on the days leading up to Christmas. So through this Advent, the weeks can build on each other. Just because the hope week is over doesn't mean we forget about hope and we focus on peace. The hope week builds into the peace week. And the peace flows out of our hope. As I believe Christ and I hope and I look towards the second coming because of the first, because of what he did from manger to the grave and back again, I have a hope. And because of that hope, I have a peace. And this is what Advent's about. This is why we celebrate Christmas. It's not about Santa and the gifts, although the gifts and the joys on people's faces, especially our children, are amazing. But even the gifts should be a symbol of the greatest gift, truly. It's not a cliche. It's been said so many times that God gave the greatest gift at Christmas. And we can just let it go. We can say it and it almost mean nothing to us. But God truly, at what we celebrate as Christmas, the meaning of Christmas, truly gave us the most wonderful, precious gift. And the Apostle Paul said, because of this gift, if God did not spare his own son, but freely offered him up for us all, how will he not give us all things that we need? There's our hope again, in the person of Christ, in the faithfulness of Jesus to his Father, in the love of the Father through the Son to us. When we look at Christ, how can we doubt him? How can we doubt his goodness? How can we not have his peace if our eyes are on him? So in this Advent season, I'd encourage you continue every week. If you go through that with your church, if you observe or celebrate it in your own home individually, look to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, the reason and source of our hope, and the Prince of Peace. May God bless you this week. Thank you.